Fake Jordan patch autos, HGA resubs into PSA 6s. We've got value offering back from PSA, and then also some more news regarding the triple logo man Lebron. Let's get into today's video. The first thing I want to touch on is the value service coming back for PSA, right? And on face value, let me give you some context. I think this is really good news from them. It's been a really measured approach. I'm actually a bit impressed with how they've gone about this. Some people have hated on them, which I'll get to in a second. I've already done a video on this a couple of days ago. You can see it down below. If you haven't seen it, the link will be in the description. Please check it out later. But to give you some context, value service is back as of June 9th. It's exclusive to Collector Club members and group submitters only. That doesn't say that on here, but that is a fact. It's $30 a card, 20 card minimum. What's interesting here is they've limited it to 1996 to 2022 cards only, so modern cards only, which I think, again, is pretty measured on their part. They don't want a bunch of group submitters or 90s junk wax essentially to flow through here, even though the late 90s still had a junk wax era, right? They've also limited it to a $499 declared value. Now, keep in mind that $499 is US, and it's the value once the card is graded. So you need to factor that in. So say you're setting a card in, if it gets a PSA 10 and it's over $499 in terms of market value, then you're going to get upcharged, okay? So keep that in mind. It's a 120-day estimated turnaround, and it'll most likely be longer than that. But the one thing here that PSA have done really well is they've said, okay, we're not going to touch these cards until we've got through our backlog of value orders already, right, from 2021. Now, they're expecting to get through this backlog in the next 2 to 3 months, and overall, I think this is pretty good news from PSA. The one difference here with regards to group submitters is I think this might be an error, but when group submitters have posted this news, they've said the limit, the DV limit is $299 instead of $499, right? I'm not sure if that's an error or if that is a fact. If it might be a fact from PSA because they might not want so many cards coming in from group submitters, right? Because they might want to try and focus the channel a little bit better. But PSA have actually copped a lot of hate for this news, and I don't truly understand why, because I think they've been really measured with their approach, and I touch on this in my video. I think they've been really measured with how they've gone about this. It's not like they've just opened the floodgates, and at the end of the day, they're a business. They have employees they need to protect. They need to have things coming through to keep paying their employees, right? They've got shareholders to protect. They've got owners to protect in that sense. So I don't have an issue with them opening up these values to get more orders coming through down the line to protect them as a business, right? Because that's what they need to do. They're a business. You can't hate on them for trying to make money. But I also don't think they're cash grabbing or being disingenuous like some people have been saying, right? Because like I said, this approach is very measured. And if I was to design, like a best practice or the best case scenario for when this would open, and I was to give you my thoughts on that, I don't know what I would have done differently other than maybe reducing the price per card. I think it should be cheaper. I think it's too expensive. I don't think you can hate on PSA for this news, right? I think it's very measured, very controlled, and they've basically done it in a way to ensure that they're going to protect not their value orders, sorry. They're going to protect to make sure there's no backlog is what I'm trying to get to. I think it's pretty good. Let me know your thoughts down below, because a lot of people have hated on them for this. They've come out and said, well, it's just a cash grab. They're doing it just because Prism has just come out, which I think is like really dumb in my opinion. And there seems to be a lot of PSA haters out there just hating on it by the fact that it's PSA. But please share your thoughts. I think if you are going to come out and hate on PSA like I have in the past, you need to be hating on them for things that actually matter, which is things like their shitty process, the fact that they still upcharge customers, which is ridiculous, right? Like, why are you upcharging customers? The fact that they still charge customers a fee when cards are marked as trimmed. If you send a card and you pay $100 a card, you have 10 cards, it's $1,000, and they're all trimmed, per se, like based on what PSA say, you have to pay $1,000, even though they haven't done anything for you, which I think is a bit ridiculous. They need to change that kind of fee structure. That's what you should hate on them for. That's what you should be pressuring them into changing, not hating on them for this, because I think this is really measured. They're a business at the end of the day. I don't want to touch on any more than that. Please share your thoughts down on that one in the comments below. Now, like I touched on at the very start, there's a lot of fake Michael Jordan patch autos starting to show up on eBay and auction house sites. Now, these have been showing up on eBay for a long time, and you can very clearly see these cards are so fake. They look like horrible, right? So the fact that people are bidding on these and falling for it is a bit shocking to me, but not surprising at the same time, because people are always out there trying to find a deal, right? And you need to remember, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. And the fact that these cards are horrid should be, pretty obvious to you. But so many people are falling for them. And what these people have started doing, like I said, they've been going to auction houses like Cardpoint have said, but what they've been doing on eBay is they've been listing these below the eBay authenticity guarantee threshold, right? So so automatically that tells you the card's less than a couple $100 US. If you're seeing these kinds of cards sell for that money, that should be a huge red flag to you in the first place, right? But they're just getting a bit clever with how they're starting to do it. So just be aware that this stuff is happening. When you do see it on eBay, please report it, because eBay will do an investigation. They'll take it down. you need to protect your fellow collectors. Some people are ignorant. Kids might be bidding on these thinking they're getting a really good deal when in reality they're getting, a card that's just printed on a piece of paper. So just be very careful. Keep an eye out for this stuff and call it out when you do see it, because whilst we, as maybe, experienced collectors, can very clearly tell these are fake, not everyone can. So just be on the lookout. And if you do see stuff like this, let me know, let eBay know, and let's try and get rid of it, because there's so much money to be made in the hobby. I've said this so many times in many of my recent videos. They're just gonna have scammers consistently now. It's like ridiculous, and it's so frustrating, and we need to sort of flag these a bit better, so then these auction houses, eBay, so on and so forth, can start doing or being more proactive with their approach. They generally do a pretty good job. Like, I think it's more shocking that these are landing on auction house sites rather than just eBay, as an example, because they should be having, a stronger due diligence when they're looking at these cards up front, right? So keep that in mind. I know I rambled, apologies. Now, just quickly, I want to touch on the triple Logoman news. So you guys would have all seen by now, and if you haven't, now you have. The card was pulled. I've touched on that in a recent video, but it was sent off to PSA for grading. It obviously came back with a crap grade, so they've put it in an authenticated PSA slab, which I think is really surprising to me. Now, this is obviously going for sale on golden auctions. It's expected to go for over $10 million USD. It's going to make it the most expensive card of all time, which is a bit shocking to me, because on face value, what's so interesting about this card? Yes, they're 3 Logoman game use patches, and it's pretty cool how you can see like the transition for LeBron being at the Cavs, Heat, and then the Lakers. But it doesn't have an auto, so should it be worth that much? What's the appeal? Some of the patches look ugly. The card is not that overly appealing. I think I would love to own it, irrespective of the dollar value, but you guys get where I'm going, right? I just don't think it was wise to put it in an authentic slab. And I want to get your thoughts on that as well, because from my perspective, I think it would have done better staying in the flawless slab, right? And this is also why people talk about you shouldn't grade a 1 of 1 unless you know it's going to get a 10, because people already want to value a 1 of 1 because they know it's a 1 of 1. It's rare, okay? When it doesn't get a 10, it detracts from the value. Whereas if it gets a 10, it's going to probably increase the value, right? So what they should have done is sent this in with a minimum grade. And then if it didn't get it, what was the point of slabbing it? Like, it's authentic. I understand, the reason for wanting to get a card of this value authenticated, okay? But the people that have pulled the card, the process it's gone through has been pretty trustworthy. Like, obviously it was pulled on backyard breaks. Those guys have had issues in the past, but they're also pretty good guys most of the time. So it's a fairly trustworthy process. It's with Ken Gold and so on and so forth. Like, it shouldn't be something that's questioned too much. And PSA can also authenticate these without slabbing them. So they could have authenticated it while keeping it in the flawless slab. I just think now that it's out of that into a PSA slab, I think it detracts from the value. I'm curious to see what that's actually going to impact the value or not, or what your thoughts are on that. So please share those down in the comments below. Now, the last thing I want to quickly touch on is some more news regarding HGA slabs being cracked and sent into PSA. Now, I've seen this happen, 4 or 5 times over the last few weeks. I don't think it's as shocking as what people are saying. So a lot of people are hating on HGA here and making it as a big joke where you've got this 9.5 going into a 6. I've seen just as many HGA slabs in 8.5s and 9s go into PSA 9s and 10s, okay? So I see that just as often as I have seen these. But keep in mind, this is not just HGA being crap, right? HGA being shit. There's also elements here where we know that PSA has been really inconsistent over the last 18 months with their grading. So that could be some of this as well. So when you see this, don't just be like, oh, HGA is crap. It might be that might be the case, right? And on face value, we need to expect PSA to be the best, right? Because they're the pillar, they're the top standard for the industry for grading. So we expect them to have the best grading standards. So we expect them to grade harsher than HGA, as an example. But this gap, I think, is maybe a little bit too large, and I think it maybe stems more to the fact that you've got inconsistencies happening out at PSA. Just because I've seen so many lower HGA slabs do really well on PSA slabs. You've got someone here like DK Cards saying, they've sent in 50 slabs and only a handful have gotten the same grade or better, whereas like 95% of them have gotten worse, which, might be the case. And it also depends when these cards were submitted to HGA. HGA have had issues with their backlog at the moment. There might be some inconsistency on their part right now. But when you see this, don't just purely automatically jump to HGA being crap. You also need to question PSA in this instance because they have been incredibly inconsistent. So if you are thinking about re-slabbing a HGA into a PSA slab, just keep that in mind. And you should be thinking that like that already, right? You should be thinking that your HGA slab is not going to get a PSA 9 or 10, okay? And if you think like that, you're going to be safe. When you do buy a 9.5 or a 10 HGA or a 9 HGA, you're going to be safe because you're going to get results that are within your expectations, right? You're not going to be paying $10,000 for a HGA slab to then getting it into a $100 PSA slab when you realize the card wasn't graded like it should have been. So just keep that stuff front of mind. Don't just jump in and sort of, apply some critical thinking and you'll be fine in the hobby. That should be your general thought process for anything. When you see stuff like that, don't just buy into what it says on face value. Just think about it and apply that to your collecting moving forward and you should be fine. So that's sort of it for this week's news video. So apologies, it went for a bit longer than I thought. I did ramble. Please share your thoughts down on any of those down in the comments below. I really appreciate communicating with you all. I'm really enjoying making my videos lately. We're getting some really good feedback and chat back and forth, which I really enjoy. So hopefully that can continue. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.